tell you, there's just something really wrong here with your internet. I don't know what it is. All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. We thought we were having internet issues. So welcome to the conversation today. We are exploring the space of zero. So what does that mean, the space of zero? And Betty, you covered that in your book, Mind is the Athlete. And you basically start out with a quote from your book saying, zero as a place to stand where no attachment to the view is present is available in every conceptual situation. So talk a little bit about that, this space of zero.
Well, we're dealing every day with a point of view of what's all around us. And I call that the language point of view.
Right.
You know, science says all is infinite mind. Well, this is what it looks like
Mm-hmm.
from the point of view sitting here calling itself Betty.
Right.
Your point of view is your own. So you don't have my point of view. You don't have your friend's point of view or your sister's point of view or your mother's point of view. You have only your own. And
Right.
what that tells you is that from where you are standing each moment, the world is looking as you see it.
Mm-hmm.
Something is present. Is it the way you see it? No. But for you, it's lived the way you see it.
Right. So it's about letting go of the way you see it.
Noise.
I don't have a noise. So it's about letting go of the way you see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's about recognizing that it's all a point of view.
Yeah. Right. So benefits occur in daily living whenever the space of no attachment kind of permeates our point of view. If we can be unattached.
What's going on that's making the noise over there? Something around you that's making noise.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was hearing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, sorry. All right. So if benefits occur in daily living, okay, whenever there's space of no attachment, when there's no attachment, I'm not talking about, or we're not really exploring like not being attached doesn't mean you're disinterested. It just means that you don't have, you're not being swayed one way or the other with your judgments and opinions about whatever's going on. Is that a way to look at it?
Yeah, you don't, your preferences color your ability to just be present.
Right.
So you want to be aware that you have preferences to deal with.
Yeah.
You have a background, an upbringing, an educational system, an everyday human living situation that kind of says things are like this, and they're like this, and they're like this.
Right.
And what you need to understand is that they are as you say for you.
Mm-hmm.
I live the world as I am, not as it is.
Right.
I know that it is because it shows up. I have evidence. But the way it is up to me.
Right.
Because I live the world as I am.
Right. So given that, if I have a lot of attachments and I'm embroiled in all of that, I'm not in this space of zero for sure. And so I limit the kinds of possibilities or new ideas or creativities or avenues to unimagined solutions. They're limited. If what I am is attached to a particular point of view, opinion, judgment, whatever, about whatever's happening. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so one of the things that really points up for us to consider is that it may not be the way we see it. That may be a product of the way we want to see it,
Right.
of what we want to believe, of what we think is there. It may not be true at all because we live in terms of our perception.
Right.
You know, perception is reception.
Yeah.
Well, I'm living the world as I perceive it, whether
Yeah.
I know it or not.
Okay.
Because individual perception is individual reception. I have going on what I can have going on. There may be a whole lot more that I don't know anything about. Doesn't mean that it's not there. It means that I'm not living that way.
Right.
It's like not being a naval commander or a deep sea diver or something like that. I'm living in a different world than that. But
Right.
doesn't mean that stuff doesn't exist. It just means I live my life according to Betty and Betty's perception and what Betty's up to. And there's
Right.
a whole lot going on that Betty isn't involved in at all.
Right.
So you got to be aware that what you're up to is what's showing up in your world. What
Right.
I run into, what occurs for me is a product of who I'm being,
Yes.
of what I'm allowing to have true, what I'm believing is not true, who I want to be around and who I don't want to be around, all that kind of human stuff. That all limits, if you will, or puts the boundaries on my ability to live every day.
Right.
And it actually points out to me, if I'm paying attention, what the limits are that I've set up for myself.
Mm-hmm. And this is really when we're stuck or we're full of our judgments and opinions and we're not unattached. This is where really what I've heard for years and years is all about be permissive. Just allow it to be. Be
Yes.
permissive. And that can have you really get to or have you presence for yourself this sense of freedom, of no attachment.
Yep. Permissive does that.
Yep. And this so a permissive attitude is the key, allowing and willing it to be whenever we encounter a really strong judgment or point of view so that we can set it aside.
Yep.
Okay.
And if you pay attention to that, if you once get the idea that you have an impact on the world you walk through.
Right.
If you blame it on others, you make yourself a victim of whatever that picture holds.
Okay.
There's some freedom when you get to the point where you realize that you generate the world you're walking through.
Right. Right. Okay. And so when we're in that, how we know, so the next question I had is kind of like, well, how do you know if you're in the space of zero? You know, like, how do you know you're really there? It's not like a concept. It's literally, you know, what does that feel like? And so one of the things here is if when I'm in the space of zero and I've not got a lot of judgment going on, I've got myself, you know, kind of very, you know, I'm open, I'm permissive, I've got some curiosity maybe, but it's in that space, the best I've been able to figure out is it's a sense of well-being. It's a sense that all is well.
Yeah.
That it's all okay. And that's the sense of it. And even, you know, and so there's this real peace present. Would that be one way to look at being, you know, how do you identify if you're in the 0 point or the space of zero?
Well, what are you asking, Kim?
I just want to, it seems like, well, what does it feel like being in the space of zero? I'm just asking that. So I'm just looking at my own experience, and it's like there's a real sense of peace. There's a sense of well-being. There's a sense of it's almost like joy is present.
Well, a space of zero involves discipline.
Okay.
And the discipline has to do with allowing the world to be the way it is, and putting kind of closing the door, if you will, on your personal preferences. I would like it to be this way or that way or the other way. You just let all that rest. Like you park it over here on the cabinet for a while, and you just say, okay, let's just see what's present. And so you kind of get quiet and calm and self-possessed and in charge. Because in fact, you are being in charge when you do that. You're exercising your freedom to have it be the way you want it or not.
Right. Because when I stay attached and I allow my personal preferences to dictate my view, the solutions or possibilities available are really limited and fairly inflexible.
Yep. And you feel like a victim.
Yeah. Based on how things play out, it's like everything's a matter of, circumstance, not
you have no self-esteem involved.
Yeah.
You sort of a victim of whatever rolls down the pike.
Right. And that's what would happen if you think that out there can impact right here.
When you think there's an out there that's out there.
Exactly. There you go. Right on. So really then, we're talking about freedom is possible only when you're able to stand in zero.
Yeah.
Clear-sighted with regard to the concept or the language world.
Yep.
Because then your choices and actions will be exactly right for you moment by moment. You're present right now.
That's correct.
So with no language attachment to limit the horizon of my experience, then my experience manifests the peace and joy and power that constitute the source of my humanity.
Yeah, being.
Yeah.
Very good. Go to the head of the class.
So when you talk about 0 point in your book, and this is all kind of based off of the book Mind is the Athlete that was written by you. So really, when we look at that 0 point, it's a concept that really can give us a fresh and new way to look at our experience, our circumstances.
Well, that's an interesting way to say it. I would say it's a state of no concept.
Okay. All right.
The freer I am of having it be a certain way, look a certain way, feel a certain way, the freer I am from that idea or those ideas, the more open I am to just being present and being present with all that's present, peace and joy and power.
Okay.
When I'm locked into my point of view, locked into Betty's preferences, locked into what I like and don't like, what I want and don't want, who I want to be with and where I want to go and where I don't want to go and who I don't want to be with, all that stuff that every day we run into. When I'm free of that stuff, life is very open and surprisingly pleasant, surprisingly enjoyable, and surprisingly accomplishing more than I ever thought I could accomplish.
Right.
Because there isn't the personal or the personality factor coloring everything.
Right. No, it's a way of finding peace and clarity in a world, no matter the ups and downs.
Yeah, that's right. And it's allowing myself to be present to that rather than to my personal preferences.
Right. And when you said it's a discipline, it's because it's stepping outside of the usual way that life is done.
Right.
So you're kind of going against the grain.
No, you're not. You're just stepping aside and letting it go.
Right. But it could appear like you're going against the grain.
Only if it does.
Right. So it's just stepping outside the usual way of thinking where everything is labeled good, bad, right, wrong. Everyone has an opinion about everything.
Yep.
All of that. Instead, it's about being free of all of that extreme, both of the extremes.
It removes you from being a victor or a victim.
Right.
It's just a presence.
Right, because you realize that both sides are not as real or as important as they might seem.
No, but they are all a point of view.
Right. So they aren't real and important, but
That's
we may give them all the life, reality, and importance.
It's like, as you say.
They have, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we're actively practicing the standing in zero concept, this standing in zero, we're literally practicing a kind of freedom from getting caught up in how things appear to be. Yeah. Because what you said, standing in zero, you bring nothing, no concept to a given situation. So it's like you bring no thing, no concept, no time, no space, nothing.
Yeah, let me read a sentence.
Yep.
I wrote anyway, zero as a place to stand where no attachment to the view is present is available in every conceptual situation.
Yep.
And that's what we're talking about.
Right. Now I know that Mary Baker Eddy emphasized that rather than seeing the world as split into mental thoughts and ideas and physical material objects or parts, we understand that everything is mental, all of it.
Yeah.
That's what we've been talking about.
All is infinite mind. That's her key word.
That's right. Exactly.
Yep.
And I think this is what you just read. Freedom from your conditioned filter. Is that it? Or is that not? Is that a different quote?
That's a different one.
Okay. So freedom from your conditioned filter is experienced when you're standing at the 0 point with regard to the paradox, which is all the circumstances in daily life, pretty much paradox.
Yep.
That's pretty much all of that.
And in another sentence, it says, standing in zero requires neutralizing the built-in human reaction mechanism and being willing to allow concepts, you see, all concepts, the language world, in other words, to be however they appear to be.
Right.
Just let them be.
Right. Right. Okay. I get that.
One of the joys of being that permissive is that it removes you from being judgmental.
Right.
When you can just allow it to be, you've given up on passing judgment on everything.
Yeah.
You've let that alone. And so the world is just the way it looks. Just, okay, on we go. So this is the way it looks. All right. Margaret Laird used to say, this is the dress God's wearing today. Okay, on we go.
Yeah. You're not allowing yourself to be in a state where you're not, or you're allowing yourself to be in a state where you're not pulled like as if in a tug of war.
Yeah, you're not living a reaction life.
Right.
Yeah, you're just being present.
Yeah, it's I could say it's about seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's very restful.
Yep.
The struggle is over.
Right, because there's an understanding the infinite nature of mind, of God. And and recognizing reality versus the appearance or the paradox with all the ups and downs, because if it's all mind function and I can only see it the way I'm seeing it, then I just need to work on my seeing.
Pay attention to your seeing. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So anything else you want to say about the 0 point? Let's see, I'm just looking through our
0
notes.
point doesn't have any valuation to it. It's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It's not hot or cold, wet or dry,
Right.
good, rich or poor. 0 has nothing to add. It's
Right.
just present.
Right.
Just like an empty cup.
Yep.
What
It's all about
what you put in it.
Yeah, and it's about trusting and or knowing or understanding that principle or universal mind unfolds everything harmoniously, even if it doesn't look that way.
Yep. And it's a discipline to keep the human picture from making you a reaction machine.
Yeah. So when we're able to stand in 0, we're permissive. We're letting things be.
Yep. So we're calm,
Mm-hmm.
pleasant,
Yep.
unperturbed.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And you're not letting it pull you into the stress and conflict that might otherwise occur.
You're just permissive. And since you are the one that generates the world you walk through, you have no disturbance to walk through.
Right.
If you're at 0.
Yeah.
What you have is the way it looks. Oh, the dress God's wearing today? Okay.
Right.
On we go.
And this is available at any moment.
Every moment.
Right. Any or every. All.
Yep.
It's available. You can access it. You don't have to, there's no time. There's no time, there's no space, there's no thing. It's just it's there, available right now, accessible. And all I have to do is acknowledge being.
Yeah, be willing.
Yeah, be willing. Yeah, and be permissive.
To have that be all that's going on.
Right. So really, being at 0 is about finding my own understanding and assurance that acknowledging that everything is already fine because it's all included as the unfolding of universal mind.
Yeah, and what you're being at 0 about, when we use that word 0, sounds like nothing.
Right. It is.
What you're really freeing yourself from is your role of victim to the appearance world.
Yeah. And I think about it.
We live ourselves out the effect of what it looks like.
Right. Right.
Oh, my goodness, I just burned the dinner. Oh, terrible. What are we going to eat now?
Right.
And you get all worked up over stuff like that. Whereas if you're at the 0 point, there's no upset or interrupt, or what do I want to call it? Distraction.
Mm-hmm.
That would have your dinner burn.
Right.
Do you know?
Yeah. I look at it like when you're at 0, you're not resisting anything. Anything is possible to unfold from that place. It's the space of creation. Yeah. It's a space.
Everything, nothing.
Uh-huh. So it would be the space of creation, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And so that's what I also see. So yeah, standing in 0, you bring nothing, no concept to a given situation.
Yes.
And Margaret Laird stressed that there are no errors, meaning that when errors appear, they are merely errors of belief, which is essentially a point of view.
Yeah, it's not a fact cast in concrete.
Right.
It's just a point of view.
Right. That's right. And then what I just said, standing in zero is about finding your own understanding and assurance that everything is already fine because it's all included as the unfolding of universal mind. And this is what it looks like.
Yeah, and the thing is, where you choose to stand, either consciously or unconsciously, creates the world you're walking through as you go.
Right.
And it just keeps unfolding
Yes.
as you walk on.
Right.
And the secret is to keep walking on.
Right.
So you're not stuck anywhere.
That's right. So that's what we've had for you this week. And we'll probably see you in a couple more weeks with a new episode. So walk on, be permissive.
We won't be doing this next week because you're traveling.
Right. That's why I said we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Okay.
So practice. How permissive are you? Where do you get hooked? This is a perfect time because next week is a big week for almost everybody here in the United States. So I would say we have all kinds of manners of how we can get hooked. And this is a really good time to practice being at zero. All right, you guys, go forth. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.